Sheriff Lott holding a press conference after there were 2 murders in 2 days. And just before he took the podium, we saw there was a sign up that said 2 juveniles murdered, 1 shot in 3 separate incidents. We know that Sheriff Lott has been a very vocal opponent of leaving cars unlocked, leaving guns in your car overnight, and of juveniles playing with handguns. Just a week ago, he held a press conference, if you can believe that, when 2 15-year-olds are accused of shooting at Richland County deputies, once again with stolen guns. It looks like he's starting to talk, so let's listen in.
I told you so. But when I'm talking about 2 15-year-olds who are dead and 3 14-year-olds who are arrested, then there's nothing to stand up here and brag about or say I told you so. But unfortunately, I've stood behind this podium many times and said that a gun's going to get you 1 or 2 places, a cemetery or in prison, and that's what we're seeing in a wild weekend that we had this past weekend. Started on Friday with a group of young people in the woods with a gun. Next thing you know, you have a 17-year-old that's shot. Fortunately, the 17-year-old is going to survive. We're still working that case to determine who all is going to be charged, but there will be charges brought with those that were there in the woods with that gun. Then we go to Sunday afternoon, where we have a shooting. And I think this one probably really illustrates what I talk about a lot about with young people with guns. You have a 14-year-old who steals his father's gun. His father's got it in a safe. The 14-year-old gets his hands on it, is able to get the safe open, get the gun. So he has a gun. He goes and visits his friends who are 14 and 15 years old. So that 14-year-old gives it to another 14-year-old who has absolutely no clue what he's really doing with that gun. He slides the gun back with his finger on the trigger. And of course, when the slide goes back, the gun shoots, hits the 15-year-old and kills him. That 15-year-old's life is gone for no reason. The 2 14-year-olds involved they've been charged. You got families that are grieving and that will grieve for a long time over the loss of their 2 sons, 2 different families, but you also got the families of those who were responsible for killing these 2. They're grieving too because they've lost their child also. Fast forward to Monday morning around 4 a.m. We have shots fired in a residential area. We find another 15-year-old who's been shot multiple times in the rear of a house. We're able to determine that a 14-year-old was responsible for that shooting too, and he's been arrested. He's charged with murder. The other 14-year-old was responsible for the first shooting. The 15-year-old, he's charged with manslaughter. Just about every one of these young people have been in the criminal justice system before. Each one of them have made bad decisions that now have impacted not only their lives forever, but also the lives of their family. I cannot emphasize enough that these guns that these kids have, and we're talking about 14 and 15-year-olds, that's probably 8, 9, 10 graders maybe, things that you would not think that someone that age would even be thinking about, but this generation that we've got in that age group thinks that gun is the answer to everything. That gun gives them power, gives them respect. Well, again, as I've stood up here many times and said, that gun has got 2 15-year-olds dead and 3 14-year-olds arrested. Their lives are never going to be the same. Christmas season's here. School's going to be out. We're going to have a lot of kids now that have a few weeks holiday vacation. As a parent and a grandparent, what are you going to do with those kids? Are you going to have a plan for them to do something, keep them occupied doing something positive? or are you just going to let them go out and do whatever they want to? And unfortunately, if you do that, then some of these kids are going to end up like the ones I'm talking about here now. You know, as a community, you know, we have to do more. Unfortunately, as I stand here and people listen to this today, they're going to be, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. This is terrible. And then tomorrow I'll get up and it'll be another day and they'll completely forget about it. These families are not going to forget about it. As a community, we do not need to forget about it. A week ago, I stood up here and talked about two 15-year-olds in a stolen car shooting at our deputies trying to kill them. 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds. This is the age group that we're having the most problems with right now. We've had 26 murders this year. 16 of those that are the victims have been 20 years and younger. These are the ones who have been arrested. 16 of them are 20 years and younger. 7 of them are 18 years and younger. This is again, I cannot emphasize, this is the age group. This is the generation that we're losing because of the guns. If these cases don't scream loud and clear about what we got going on, I don't know what is. So I'm asking for parents to be a parent. I'm asking the community to stand up and let's do something. But we cannot continue to lose these young people like we're doing right now. I can't give you their names because they're juveniles. They're all in DJJ at this point. These are the charges that they're facing. I'm not going to give you the names of the two 15-year-olds that were killed. The family members asked me not to do that. They're victimized enough, and they're hurting. They're hurting. And as a community, all of us need to be hurting. So, questions?
In reference to the Quentin Lane murder, were both of the teenagers residents of the house where it occurred?
I'm not going to go into who lived where on that. At this point, that's not really important.
Sheriff, could the parents face any charges from this?
We're still looking at all of that. The father whose gun was stolen, no. I mean, I think he did everything that he could do. You know, his son stole his gun. You know, so there's no charges there. So I don't know. We still got a lot of work to do. We know who's responsible and who we've charged, but there's other individuals that may have part of it. You know, we know that one of the guns was hidden. You know, they tried to conceal it from us. So there's some accessory before and maybe even after that we're going to look at. So if we're going to charge everybody that needs to be charged.
Sheriff, as you stand and give these press conferences, what's the challenge in getting this message to the actual youth that's out here just running rampant?
I don't think the kids believe it's going to happen to them. I think they're so inundated with that a gun is so important in their life, and they hear about others being killed or shot or being arrested, and they just have this attitude, it's not going to happen to me. You know, we haven't slapped them in the face with reality hard enough yet. And I think we need to do more of that. So that's the challenge with the kids involved. Challenge with parents is that they really need to be a parent, and they need to really know where their kids are and what they're doing. You know, at 4 o'clock in the morning, I don't think my kids would be out at 4 o'clock in the morning. I know exactly what bed they're in and where they're sleeping and what they're going to be doing. So I think parents need to stand up and be parents. Grandparents need to be involved, and we need to be involved more as a community. I'm telling you, we're losing a generation. They're going to be incarcerated or they're going to be in the cemetery. And that concerns me. It should concern everybody.
I have 2 questions. Both of those weapons, they were registered, right?
What do you mean by registered?
As far as like they weren't just ghost guns, like they were properly registered to the owners.
There's no registration. We haven't traced down to where these guns came from yet.
Okay.
So no. They were not a ghost gun. They were guns.
And then the second question I have for you is, I know you've been very direct with saying if you do the crime, you do the time. So for our viewers, can you remind them or can you mention to them, what do you think is, how young is you too young to be tried as an adult if they want to, you look at these ages?
You kill somebody, you're going to get charged. That's up to the solicitor's office to decide that. They prosecute it. We're just going to charge them. But I will guarantee you this, if you get caught with a gun and you're a kid, you're going to DJJ. Mom and Daddy ain't going to come pick you up and take you home. If we catch you with a gun, you're going to go to DJJ. We are going to hold you accountable as much as we can, and that's something that we can control on if you go home or you don't go home. But if you get caught with a gun, you're not going home. That is a fact, and that is a promise.
And how frustrating is it for you when you see repeat offenders?
You say it's like beating your head up against that wall, but we're not going to do that. Because if we do that, then we're giving up, and we're not giving up. It's disappointing to see. You know, when I stand up here and look at all the rest that these young people have already had at 14 years old, the system's not working. If the system is designed as a deterrent to keep them from getting involved in more crime and teaching them something, then this is a sign of failure that our system is not working because they're still doing it. So yes, that part is very disappointing to see over and over and over. It's like the two 15-year-olds last week who shot at our deputies. How many chances they'd already had within our system? You know, at some point the system's got to say, enough is enough. No more slap on the wrist. No more little ankle monitors that don't work. No more probation that doesn't work. You need to be housed somewhere because you need to be slapped in the face with what your decisions you're making, where it's going to end you up at.
How challenging is it just to respond to these types of calls?
It's challenging. Our guys and girls who are out here working, they're seeing too much death. You know, some of them are parents, some of them are grandparents. You know, you see somebody shot and that's laying there dead that's 15 years old, and then you go put handcuffs on somebody who's 14. That weighs on them very much because they see it. I mean, look at just this past weekend, 3 separate shootings, 2 people dead and 1 that's in the hospital. That's what we've had to deal with. It's, you know, but I will tell you there is a silver lining to all of this is that when you look at all the murders we've had, I think we're at 26, we solved every one of them. There's not a family out there who's had a loved one that's been murdered that don't have some type of closure knowing somebody went to jail for taking their loved one's life. That's a credit to the men and women who work here. They see these terrible things, but they go out here and they work, and they lock the bad people up. That's what our job is to find those responsible for taking other people's lives and committing crimes, to go out here and catch them, and our people do catch them.
And you may or may not be able to answer this, but what are these parents telling you when they find out their child that's been out 4 in the morning is in a stolen vehicle?
I didn't know where they were at. I didn't know they were doing this. That's just a million excuses. Yeah. That's your child. You had that child. That child's your responsibility and your child their whole life. You don't ever stop becoming a parent. You don't stop being that parent. So take some responsibility. That part is frustration too. And when I talk about slapping people in the face of reality, some of these parents need to be slapped upside the head too on not being a parent. So, thank y'all.
All right, a very grim press conference there. And once again, this is like a deja vu. Just saw the same sort of press conference last week as Sheriff Lott talked about 2 15-year-olds who they did catch who were firing guns at their deputies. Now, he talked about 3 different incidents in today's press conference. We're going to start back with what we know about Friday. On Friday, he says there was a group of teenagers in woods. He did not specify where the woods were, and he said that a 17-year-old was shot because kids were playing with a gun. That 17-year-old survived the shooting. Then on Sunday, this happened on Hunting Avenue, and the sheriff talked about it. He said a 14-year-old stole his father's gun that was locked up in a safe. He said that father is not going to face charges because that father did the right thing and had his gun locked up in a gun safe. He said he took that gun, to show off to his buddies and show the gun to his friends. And then he said by accident, another 14-year-old was holding the gun and had his hand on the trigger, and he said slid it back and the gun went off, killing his 15-year-old friend. He said also he would not be identifying the 15-year-old because the family has asked that victim not be identified. Again, he was friends with the 14-year-old who accidentally shot him. 2 14-year-olds in that case have been charged. One of them has been charged with manslaughter. All right, that was Hunting Avenue on Sunday. Let's move on now to what happened on Monday. Here's what we know, and here's what the sheriff had to say about Monday. Monday, this happened on Quinton Lane at 4 in the morning, and we're talking about teenagers, 8th grade, 9th grade, maybe 10th grade. 4 in the morning. Shots were fired. When Richland County deputies got there, they found a 15-year-old shot at the back of the house. That 15-year-old died from his injuries, and a 14-year-old was charged in that murder. Sheriff Lott said a gun is only going to put you in 2 places. And he has said this at I think every single press conference that I personally have heard him talk about. He said teenagers are going to end up either in jail or in the grave. And he said, I told you so. That's basically how he started this press conference, being very frustrated. He said the community needs to do more. He said we have had 26 murders this year. 16 of those murders, the victims were under 20 years old, 20 years old and younger. He went on to say, listen, the system is failing. He didn't mince words talking about this. He says these little ankle monitors that half the time don't even work, and a slap on the wrist and probation is not working because these teenagers are offending and getting out of jail and offending again. It's interesting to me, he didn't say the 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds were the biggest problem right now for the Richland County Sheriff's deputies. He said it is the 13, 14, and 15-year-olds that are the biggest problems. He said the system is broken and we need to put these guys away to do hard time. He also said and was proud that all 26 murders in Richland County have been solved. But he said repeat offenders are the issue in this case. And then he referenced last week where we were live once again and we streamed it on our News 19 streaming platforms again when he was talking about those 2 15-year-olds firing shots at his deputies. They were both repeat offenders as well. So a very sad press conference from Sheriff Leon Lott saying that 2 teenagers are dead and 3 14-year-olds have been arrested in connection with these murders. Now, we have reporters working on this story today. We did have a reporter in the room for that press conference. We are going to bring you the latest tonight at 5, 6, and 7 and continue to follow. And if you want to see, we did a story with Sheriff Lott after those 15-year-olds fired shots at the Richland deputies. We did a story about an aversion program that they have that's very successful. You can see that at WLTX.com or any of the previous coverage of the shootings, again, at Hunting Avenue and Quinton Lane. But once again, just to recap, 3 separate incidents. 2 teenagers have been murdered. 3 teenagers are behind bars at DJJ, not giving any of their names because they're young, they're teenagers, they're juveniles. We're going to bring you the latest tonight on News 19 at 5, 6, and 7, and also check out our website for continuing coverage.